This is out of Beirut and Lebanon. I want to bring into the conversation now just to discuss all of these latest developments. David Dawood, he is with the Foundation today.
Thank you for having me on.
So I did give a bit of a recap there right off the top of some of the things that we had been following for the last several hours. What really stuck out to you, and what really, out of all of those developments, could possibly change the trajectory of this entire conflict?
Well, I think first of all, I mean the very fact that Hezbollah joined in this conflict, given its domestic constraints, given the fact that I mean just over a year ago they got out of a war that they got they fell into. They didn't really expect their intervention in the Gaza conflict to turn into a full war. Decimated their political leadership, decimated most of their arsenal. And yet we find them again starting a conflict with the Israelis. And this suggests to me that they're sensing that the Israeli American war in Iran is heading in a direction that's going to threaten the regime's existence. Otherwise, why risk the predictably furious Israeli response and the equally predictably furious response from Lebanese, or again, dragging them into a foreign conflict? This trajectory is if the United States and Israel stop the war prematurely for whatever reason, if President Trump accepts any Iranian offer for negotiation, some kind of off ramp that allows the regime to preserve its existence, lick its wounds from this conflict, preserve its existence, but then return back to the same behaviors that led us to this point to begin with.
Meet EM Sense, a breakthrough in foot therapy that wraps around your foot and ankle like a therapeutic boot and
I want to put up next here. It's a map of the region just to give our viewers a bit more context as to some of the surrounding countries. This conflict, David, as you know, it appears to be affecting multiple countries across the Middle East right now. How concerned are regional governments about this risk of further expansion when it comes to the fighting?
Well, I mean, I think it's expanded as far as it can already. Where there are attacks on the Gulf states, there's attacks in Iraq and Jordan, and Iran is saying that it's only attacking U.S. assets in these countries. But really, what they're trying to do, and that's first of all not true, right? We've seen footage of attacks on, say, hotels in the United Arab Emirates and elsewhere, and what they're trying to do is kind of hit the soft underbelly of American regional power. The Gulf states are prosperous countries. They're not, they've had a history of war, say in Yemen, but they're not inclined towards fighting. They don't have that durability that say, or the endurance these say the Israelis have built up from unfortunately decades of experiencing war after war after war. And what the Iranians are hoping is this harassment of the Gulf states will lead them to effectively cry uncle. And given their influence with President Trump, given President Trump's proximity to the Gulf states, they'll turn to him and say, President Trump, please stop this war in Iran. We can't take anymore. And again, that'll lead to a premature ceasefire that'll allow the Islamic Republic to endure everything that Iran is doing right now. I don't think they expect a genuine military victory in the conventional sense. They're trying to get what the United States and Israel to do to stop because they want the regime to survive. Again, not so they can come to a real modus vivendi with either the United States and Israel or the regional countries, but so they can go back to the business of regional destabilization, proxies, building up their ballistic missile arsenal, and of course, going back to rebuilding their nuclear program.
As we talk a little bit about some of these goals that Iran still has here in terms of where they want this to go next, and given the rhetoric, what we've heard from both the U.S. and the Israeli governments, I mean, is this something that Iran could achieve just to keep the regime alive and to continue on operations as they were before?
Achieving the regime's survival actually isn't that hard. It's a harder lift for the United States and for Israel, given we don't have ground forces in Iran, given the size of the country, given that this is a regime that's had almost 50 years to build up organizational depth. It's actually harder to achieve regime change, to destroy the proxies, to eliminate all of Iran's pathways for resurgence than it is for Iran to just
Double tap that screen when y'all come into the live, folks. Need those likes to go up so we can get the conversation up and get the viewership up. Let's go.
maintain that bare thread that allows it to continue existing. The Islamic Republic regime, rather, and from there, look, then they'll wait until international conditions are more favorable. Maybe the president current president becomes more preoccupied with domestic issues. The next president's not interested in the Middle East. They'll wait for an opportune moment. This is a regime that is defined by strategic patience. So if it takes 5-10 years, they'll wait for that moment when the eyes are off of them, and then they'll restart what they've been doing. So the goal now is just survive, and that's a very easy goal to achieve.
A lot of the conversation right now, or a lot of the major headlines, do follow these military dynamics, all of these military operations that are underway from all of these.
But also, the Israelis have issued several warnings now to the residents of South Lebanon. I think initially there were like 53 villages, and then they kept increasing the number. And then ultimately they said, all of South Lebanon move north of the Litani River. Then this was followed by a call for the residents of Dahia. This is Beirut's southern suburbs, heavily Shiite area, effectively Hezbollah's nerve center in Lebanon. Move out of the area, move northward, move eastward. And then there were the areas of Baalbek that also, this is eastern Lebanon. There were calls for Lebanese to evacuate, Lebanese, again, Shiites, to evacuate westward. So basically move out of the areas where Israel alleges that Hezbollah has military assets, where it's operating. Now, the Israelis want to facilitate their military operations while minimizing the harm to civilian casualties. Hezbollah has a history of intertwining itself with the civilian population, intertwining its assets with the civilian population, which itself is a war crime. And the Israelis, what they're trying to do is say, get out of the way, guys, get out of the way, people, civilians, move out of the way, so we can, we don't harm you, and we can facilitate the targeting of Hezbollah assets. But ultimately, this is going to result in what we've seen, about 300,000, I think the estimate is, displaced Lebanese. I mean, Dahia alone, where the Israelis have called for evacuation twice now.
Double tap that screen when you come into the live, folks. Let's go. Double tap, double tap, double tap. Internet tripping. But we here. God dang.
Oh, Wallace. And K. H. Funny Fun. Josh says, well, could this lead to World War III? Could other countries get involved? I don't know what's going to happen.
This is very boring.
Any chance it could end sooner than people expect? By the way, Shin, who I follow, says reports right now of some targets of strikes in Isfahan, Iran. President Trump can change his mind.
He won't.
You guys, the hotels are not going to be happy if you have one of these, because this is the HDMI wireless transmitter. So this part you plug into your phone, just like this.
Israel is about 10 to 12 minutes. And this is the damage we're seeing inside Tel Aviv after an Iranian missile strike. At least 11 people have been killed in the past 9 days.
President Donald Trump has denied the U.S. carried out a strike on a girls' school in Iran that killed 165 people. The attack in the southern city of Minab happened just hours into the joint Israeli and U.S. attacks. Human Rights Watch has called for the strike to be investigated as a possible war crime. Hamza Mohammed reports.
This is what remains of the girls' elementary school in Minab, in southern Iran. Most of the students were between 8 and 12 years old. Classes were underway, on the first day of the US and Israel's attacks on Iran when a strike hit the building. More than 160 people were killed. The acts and Israel of carrying out the attack.
I want to announce to the global community that this crime in Minab occurred while the global community speaks of civilization, speaks of human rights, speaks of the rights of children and adolescents. Yet before the eyes of the international community and in the silence of international institutions, this savage crime has taken place.
The US military says it's investigating the attack, but President Donald Trump said Iran itself was responsible without citing any evidence.
We think it was done by Iran. Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions.
Don't believe nothing he say.
A claim outrightly rejected by Iran.
It is our school. These are our students, our girls, and they are attacked by an American fighter, a jet fighter, and they have been killed. Why Iran is responsible?
American media reports and analysis of the evidence suggest the US military was behind the strike.
Absolutely, they was.
4 schools have been hit since the war began.
Ridiculous.
And rights groups have condemned the attack and called for an independent investigation, meaning the killings in Minab could become a defining test of accountability in the conflict. Hamza Mohammed, Al Jazeera.
Well, let's go back to the Iranian capital and speak to Al Jazeera's Mohammed Val. Mohammed, we were talking earlier about the selection of the new supreme leader. So apart from leading the country at a time of war, what are the other main challenges that face the new leader? I mean, he's an unknown in terms of his personality. He's always been a rather shadowy figure. I mean, people don't really know him.
Darren, for now, the main challenge for him probably is to be safe. Because the Israelis are threatening to kill him, and the Americans are already saying that they don't agree with his. I mean, even before he was appointed, I mean, President Trump said that he's not the right person for this succession. So that's the main challenge: is his own personal.
So how in the hell could the United States tell Iran who they want to be their leader? Like, let's be real here. Let's not be fools. Double tap that screen when you come into the live, man. What we witnessing right here, Israel is getting bombed way more than Iran. No matter what they might tell you on the United States news, you better go across the world and listen. But Israel is taking a beating. All the pictures that you see on TV or online, man, Israel looks just as bad as Iran, which means it's been said that, hey, it's a good chance that Iran may be suited to stay at war longer than anybody in the world. So what does that mean?
Security, but also the other challenge is communication with all the components of the political system. We have seen that all of those political leaders and entities have already declared that they support him, from the parliament to the ministries of intelligence, ministry of. This situation is going to be guaranteed when problems of communication, problem of transportation, going from place to place, meetings and so on, all of that is difficult for the moment. So the main challenge now for him is to coordinate the whole operation and to be able to have a say in everything, and for people to reach him in the right time, in the right place and so on, in a manner that will not compromise his security. This is for the time being. In the future, probably after this war, of course, he will have the challenge of national consensus. We know that Iran is deeply divided politically and so on, but that's something not for now. That's for another day. For the moment, it is the conduct of the war. It is the...
Double tap that screen when y'all coming to the live. We are covering the Iran Israel war. Now we got talks that Iraq is getting into the field of play. So double tap that screen, y'all. Let's get to it.
The running of things and the passing of orders to the different components and so on, and for him also to speak to the public. The Iranians are waiting for the new supreme leader to talk and to show his face. We know that before now he was mostly an obscure figure, even though people know him and know his merits and know what he can do. He was fighting in the Iran-Iraq war and so on. He's very close to the IRGC. They know his capabilities, but in terms of the public image, he did not work on a public image, and that's why probably some people say he's not the right man, because they haven't seen him asserting himself on many occasions and so on. So that's going to be the challenge. He has to really earn the same stature and the same importance and the same aura that his father had over the last several decades. For the moment, that's going to be very difficult, because we are in a situation where nothing is safe, no place is safe, no person is safe, and there are tremendous difficulties in just communicating with the public.
Mohammed, away from the selection of the new supreme leader, just bring us up to date then with the latest on US-Israeli airstrikes across the country and what's been happening on the ground.
Darren, just a while ago, we heard another loud explosion. So every now and then, almost every hour, sometimes every half an hour, there is a huge explosion here in Tehran. And we don't know what the target is. We don't know the impact, the results of that. There is no information coming from the government or from anywhere else telling us what's happening in Tehran, but explosions are being heard every now and then. We know that Qom has also been targeted during the day. The governor of Qom said that a residential building was targeted, and some people think maybe that's an assassination attempt by Israel, but there is also no information about that. We have seen earlier in the day how the Tehran skyline and all the city has been enveloped in smoke because of what happened last night. That rain of toxic rain here on the heads of people, and the instructions that people should be safe and try to not to go out in the streets and try to wear masks and so on. So the situation is already complicated even before what happened last night, and today also bombardment is continuous. And amid this situation, people here are expecting the worst, because there is no sign from outside, from the Americans and the Israelis, that this war is about to end.
Mohammed Val, live for us in Tehran. Mohammed, thank you. Well, Al Jazeera correspondent Ali Hashem has reported extensively on Iran, and earlier he explained the significance of the timing of the announcement that Mojtaba Khamenei will be the new supreme leader.
Well, indeed, it was a religious night, and it's the Laylatul is the second most valued character in Shia Islam. So putting all these together gives a kind of a symbolism to the choice. And they are trying to, the deep state, the system in Iran is trying to stress the symbolism of the choice of Mojtaba Khamenei as a son of the slain leader, the martyr. All
Tap that screen when you come into the live, y'all. We live.
1/3 is bigger than 1/4. 1/2 is the same as 2 1/4.
The husband. So all this trying to put it as part of Mojtaba Khamenei's legitimacy the moment he is ascending to power, not just a situation where he is just succeeding his father. Rather, he is taking this because he deserves it. So this is how they are portraying it and picturing it. Now, the fact is that at this moment, in the middle of the war, a new leader is being elected. This is a position of defiance from the Islamic Republic towards the United States. Given the fact President Trump said and repeated he's not going to accept, but having a voice and a vote in this, it seems that he didn't. Now, the other side of the story is that the United States and Israel threatened to kill him.
Well, despite tensions over the Iran attacks, President Trump and China's leader Xi Jinping appear to be settling their differences aside. The two leaders are preparing for a high-stakes meeting, balancing trade and regional tensions. Al Jazeera's Lucia Newman reports now from Washington.
Well, if you didn't know, China gets a lot of oil from Iran. So that will be a very interesting conversation.
With missiles and drones flying in all directions in the Gulf, many fear the fragile truce between Beijing and Washington will crack. Trump calls China a malign influence.
So I want to be nice to China, but China's been very rough with us over the years.
Conventional wisdom would suggest that Beijing could be tempted to attack Taiwan on the assumption that the U.S.'s military resources are already spread thin.
China is deeply concerned about the spread of war into neighboring countries.
But despite the strong rhetoric, ahead of next month's planned meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping, both countries have strong incentives to keep their ties on a steady keel. The White House is keen to finalize a major trade deal with China, including large purchases of U.S. agricultural goods and energy. China, for its part, wants to preserve the one-year trade truce to ensure that U.S. tariffs remain low for Chinese imports and also make sure that rare minerals from China reach U.S. factories. A win-win for both powers. As for Taiwan, the U.S. attacks on Iran may bolster Trump's leverage by demonstrating a readiness to use far greater military force than before. Iran exports nearly 90% of its oil to China, a significant amount. Shipping routes through the Straits of Hormuz, used for half of the oil China imports from the Gulf, have already been seriously disrupted. So, for Beijing, the shorter the conflict, the better.
China urges all parties to immediately stop military operations, prevent further escalation of tensions, and avoid regional instability that could have a greater impact on the global economy.
While an ally of Iran, seeing its nuclear program crippled benefits China by reducing the temptations of other Asian rivals, such as Japan, to seek nuclear weapons. And when the conflict is over, China will be able to offer Iran infrastructure projects and technology in exchange for oil. As for Trump,
Every time you meet, you talk about China. We respect China. I do. We both do, I think. But it's always a topic of conversation. We've had a very good relationship with China.
a sign that for both feuding powers, for the time being at least, it's a matter of choosing your battles. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Police in Norway say an explosion at the US Embassy in the capital Oslo may be linked to the conflict in the Middle East. Police say the incident happened in the early hours of Sunday at the entrance to the consular section. Officials say the blast caused minor damage and no one was injured. Police in Norway say they're working closely with the US Embassy. Let's take a look at some of the day's other news now. And a man has been killed in a Russian attack in eastern Ukraine. Several others were injured in the bomb blast on Sunday in Kramatorsk. The city is 14 kilometers from the front line and is one of Ukraine's last strongholds in the eastern Donetsk region. Well, it comes as the Netherlands' new Prime Minister paid his first official visit to Ukraine. Rob Yetten and President Volodymyr Zelensky laid wreaths honoring the country's fallen soldiers. Zelensky says they discussed investments in arms production and the licensing of weapons. Yetten's visit comes amid concern in Kyiv that the war could slip into the background as global attention shifts to the Middle East. Andrew McAlpine has more now from the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv.
Ukrainian and U.S. flags are still sold together as souvenirs, but the relationship isn't what it once was. Alexei says he has noticed a difference.
It was time when Ukraine was number one in all newspapers everywhere.
Now, with the new war in the Middle East, there are concerns here about how global attention might shift away from Ukraine and threaten Kyiv's supply of vital air defense missiles from its allies. Ukraine's president is now offering an exchange.
We would like, with the help of countries we can name and those we cannot, to cover our deficit in Patriot missiles. And in return, we can provide the corresponding number of interceptors.
But whilst in their own war, Ukrainians worry whether they have the weapons to spare.
To give assistance where our help isn't actually needed, when drones fly all the way and fall onto the roofs of our houses. That's very strange.
I think we need to deal with our own problems first and only then provide help to others. Otherwise, we'll give everything away to others and end up with nothing ourselves. In my view, we are not in a position of abundance. Alexei doesn't know how many more of these he'll sell, and it may seem like a small detail, but it reflects a bigger uncertainty. With the US-Ukraine relationship already under strain, many here wonder what shifting global priorities could mean for Ukraine's future.
If all countries think just about themselves, we don't have weapons from other countries and start of the war. So probably Zelensky make right, but who knows? We will see.
Audrey McAlpine, Al Jazeera, Kyiv.
Now, a centrist party in Nepal, led by a rapper turned politician, is set for a landslide victory in the first parliamentary election since youth-led protesters ousted the previous leadership. The National Independent Party, led by Balendra Shah, has already won 117 of 165 seats in partial results. Vote counting is still ongoing and final results are expected later in the week. Shah unseated the former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli in his own constituency. Polling is continuing in congressional elections in Colombia after a campaign marred by violence. Colombians are also choosing candidates for a presidential vote in May. The region remains dominated by armed groups and ongoing pressure from US President Donald Trump.
Wow.
If being 40 pounds overweight makes you feel
Hold up, y'all. Here we go.
on Monday, March 9th, we start the military chair Tai Chi program for beginners.
Iran's retaliatory strikes, though, continue not only in Israel, but at other neighbors in the Gulf. This as a third U.S. Navy aircraft carrier strike group is now expected to join in the fight against Iran. In moments, I will be speaking live with Israeli President Isaac Herzog. But first, let's go live to Tel Aviv, where Nate Foy is on the ground with the very latest. Hi, Nate.
Hey, Aisha. Yeah, Iran continues firing on its neighbors today, even after President Masoud Pezeshkian promised that they would. And Pezeshkian is one of the three people on Iran's interim leadership council. Iran's military seemingly not getting that message or not on the same page in the past hour, targeting an airbase in Saudi Arabia and hitting a tower in Dubai with an Iranian drone. Take a look. This isn't the first time that Dubai has been attacked. Even just today, the Dubai International Airport got hit with an Iranian drone early this morning. And shortly before that, a drone damaged an oil facility in southern Iraq. Iran also claims it hit an oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz today. Meanwhile, Israel is launching more strikes in Beirut. So far this weekend, they've hit 170 Hezbollah military sites. Sirens are also blaring in northern Israel this hour. Meanwhile, the U.S. bombing campaign continues in Tehran. President Trump promised a big wave of attacks today, as so far the U.S. has struck 3,000 targets in Iran during the first week of Operation Epic Fury. The U.S. has also sunk at least 42 ships as the U.S. continues degrading Iran's offensive and defensive capabilities. However, those capabilities still exist, as we have seen in Tel Aviv today. Iran has fired ballistic missiles here and at central Israel.
So long story short, the American news is lying about Iran being incapacitated. They don't have any navy. They don't have any way to shoot. They don't have any water. This shit is all lies. That's why you got to tap into another news source or you would never know.
Several times we've seen intercept missiles go off behind us, and Israel's air defense has been effective. We'll send it back to you, Aisha.
Okay, Nate Foy reporting live for us. Nate, thank you. For more on the ongoing conflict with Iran, let's bring in now the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog. President Herzog, thank you so much for being on the program with us today.
Thank you, Aisha. It's a pleasure.
I want to start with what the president has said about what he needs from Iran. He has continuously said he wants a unconditional surrender. He won't accept anything else. What does that look like to you, sir?
It looks like a major sea change in world history, meaning finally somebody has taken head on this ongoing, repeated uh, pain and agony that has emanated from the Middle East and says enough is enough. And I think the president's decisions throughout have been bold, have been clear-minded, have been unique and clearly historical in the fact that he's leading a different path for the Middle East. I heard today the leader, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the leader of the United Arab Emirates. He spoke beautifully. And he is one of a kind, like all other leaders there, who've been bombarded by Iranians. And the issue is that there's a coalition of nations in the Middle East who says enough is enough. We're fed up. You guys out there in Tehran, you can't do this anymore. You cannot spread terror. You cannot spread havoc. You cannot say America is the big Satan, Israel is the little Satan. You cannot build terror cells all over the world. That's over. And that's why we are working in an incredible partnership between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, who both have taken outstanding decisions, together now with all the leaders in the region, just to bring a different path for the future of the world, in fact.
President, you know, regime changes are very difficult through just air power, and it appears that the Iranian regime is expecting ground troops at some point, U.S. and Israeli. I want to play a soundbite here from the foreign minister of Iran talking about what they expect. Listen.
President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
Do you want to know where to invest $1,000 right now?
Did y'all hear that? Did that man sound like he worried?
Goldman Sachs says this new AI breakthrough could trigger an
President Herzog, are you expecting to send any Israeli troops into Iran?
No, and I don't think anybody's expecting to see American troops in Iran as well. I think part of the comments of the Iranian foreign minister is in order to impact American public opinion and scare American public opinion. You've got to understand, Aisha. First and foremost, we are both in this unique partnership are delineating the power of the Iranian military revolutionary guards and the extreme cruelty of their regime. We are weakening them. And when you are weakening them, they will be confronted with major questions, including from their public. We know that there's havoc in that regime. We know that there's huge debates, arguments, and total disarray in that leadership. We know it. And that's why there's a process that will take place which will bring their demise and end. It doesn't require troops on the ground for that matter. It requires constant pressure because there's a given moment where everybody says, stop, it's over. And that's how it will happen.
Can I ask you about the Kurds? There's reporting out there that the Kurds, the fighters, might be sent into Iran to start a ground offensive. The White House has pushed back on any reporting that suggests that there is some sort of a plan to use the Kurds. But wouldn't that help both Israeli and U.S. troops? Would you be supportive of using the Kurdish fighters?
One has to understand that the Kurds have their own aspirations and needs and objectives. The Kurds are spread all over the Middle East. I would be very cautious in saying who's joining, who's not joining. Iran is a big nation. It's 90 million. It has various groups within it. One thing we know for sure, for years, the Iranian people are fed up. And you saw them go into the streets just 2 months ago, and you saw them brutally butchered by their regime. About between 32 to 50,000 people who've been butchered just like that. And I'm telling you, it is obvious that with the pressure from the outside and the pressure from the inside, there will be change. We're not condescending, we're not over optimistic, we're very realistic. We are showing a coalition which is unbelievable. This US military and Israeli military cooperation is unprecedented. It works like the coalition in World War II, even. I mean, it's really impressive under the leadership of President Trump. And I must say, I commend also Prime Minister Netanyahu for the incredible decisions that he has taken together with President Trump. Both of them are doing incredible work to change the future of the world and bring us a better future. And that means preventing nuclear armament for Iran. That means stop spreading terror and havoc all over the region. And that means also change in the region, meaning Lebanon, and you've seen Syria, hopefully in other places.
Right. I can't let you go without asking you, President, if about the pressure campaign from our president, President Trump, for you to pardon Benjamin Netanyahu. He told Axios this week. He said, "Every day I talk to Bibi about the war, I want him to focus on the war and not the, I won't say the curse word, court case. I want the only pressure on Bibi to be the fighting against Iran." Will you be pardoning the Prime Minister, Netanyahu?
So let's put things on record and in perspective. First of all, during the war, there are no proceedings at all, so it's off the charts and off the table, and the Prime Minister is solely focused on the war. Number two, just to explain to your viewers, I'm the head of state. I don't have executive powers. It's similar to what you see in Europe and other countries, and I have the pardoning power. I'm of course obliged and sworn into Israeli law, just like you have American Constitution for the President of the United States. So we have the Israeli Constitution for the President of Israel. So I said,
would you be
from the
supportive
onset
of
that
a
I will,
pardon, sir?
wait a minute, wait. I said that I will consider everything seriously, but I'm obliged under the process and under Israeli law to await opinions that must be given to me by the relevant authorities. And that is why, of course, everything's on the table, but it has to be done according to Israeli law. I respect President Trump tremendously, honestly, and I take the brunt with a lot of affection and respect to him because he's the leader of the free world who's changing history. But on the merits of a case, which is an internal case in Israel, I am obliged, I'm sworn in, and I'm the president of the state of Israel.
Okay. President Herzog, thank you very much for joining us from Israel. We very much appreciate your time. Great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
That's the sound of an American oil company hard at work. Want to be a part of it? Listen up.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, and I'm the CEO of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us at our next webinar where you can drill deeper into our bond offering. We currently offer two investment opportunities, a private placement bond offering for accredited investors with target annual interest rates between 9 and 13%. Also, we offer a registered bond offering open to both accredited and non-accredited investors with rates ranging from 9 to 12%. Our daily production rates have risen as high as 39,000 barrels of oil per day. We've sold more than 10 million barrels, and we're just getting started. Sign up for the webinar and start your journey with Phoenix Energy today.
Ben, we're getting some live activity. As you can see, the sky's lighting up there in Jerusalem. Trey.
Yeah, Sandra, we are seeing what appear to be some interceptor rounds coming off from the sea, which means some of that missile fire certainly has started. As I talk to you here, we're just going to put on some protective gear. And my cameraman, Yaniv, is going to follow some of these small dots of light that you see in the sky. Remember, we do expect any sort of defensive response to be paired not only with Israeli systems, but also American systems. But this is an indication that that missile fire is imminent. Sandra?
And
John?
we know this is happening after the IDF, as we were just discussing, Trey, just a short while ago, identified these missiles launched from Iran towards the territory of the state of Israel. The defense systems are operating to intercept that threat. We know there, as you are doing now, public's been instructed to enter a protected space, remain there until further notice. Trey, we're just getting a firsthand look at what you are going through just to deliver the news from Tel Aviv at this hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Sandra and John, when we talk about these missile attacks, we have seen them before. You might remember last year on April 1st, the Israelis targeted the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, and they killed a top official from the IRGC. 12 days later, the Iranians responded with missiles and drones toward this country. There was a similar attack against Israel in October of 2024. And during that attack, we were in the northern city of Haifa, and you could see the incoming Iranian ballistic missiles over Syrian airspace as some of them were intercepted. And just stay with me here. I just want to talk to my crew very quickly to ensure we know what's happening. But just to give you a sense of how quickly these things happen, the Israelis do get an alert ahead of time. And an official told me just before we got on air here that the top spokesman for the Israeli military, and I'm just going to step out of the frame here, Yaniv, off in the distance, look at the skyline, and you're going to see this is likely Israel's Arrow defense system or David Sling. These are live images coming to you right now as Israel works to intercept incoming ballistic missile fire. This is a very fluid situation, so stay with us here. And I'm just going to toss it back to you for 10 seconds as I talk to the crew. I want to make sure everyone is prepared in case we need to move quickly.
Trey, do what you have to do. We'll check back in with you in a moment. Get back to Ben Hall. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, Sandra, remember that we saw some of these similar attacks last year when the Iranians fired about 200 missiles at Israel. And in that case, the Iron Dome and the other air defense systems shot down all of them, except about, I believe it was 60 of them. Now, at that point, the air defense systems were able to handle it. But Iran has thousands of ballistic missiles. And the thinking is if they want to overwhelm those air defense systems, then they would fire them in much bigger bursts. We don't yet know how many have been fired at this point, but that is the only way that the Iranians will be able to get around the Israeli air defense system. So we have to see what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, Ben, this is happening at the moment. This is a live shot. You can see the skies lighting up there. Trey, if you're in a safe position to do so, please do tell us what you're seeing and hearing.
Yeah, Sandra, this is a significant attack. The attack the Israelis have been preparing for in response. Air raid sirens are now starting to sound across Tel Aviv, an indication, and I can see interceptors coming off from all directions. We don't know exactly how many missiles have been fired by the Iranians, but this is Israel's second largest city, a population of 300,000 people. And right now they are headed, and you're seeing an interception right there, up to the sky, Yaniv. Just stay with us. We just need to be calculated here. We're good here, and we are going to, okay, so right now what we are seeing, Sandra, is Israel's missile defense systems, likely along with American systems, working to intercept incoming ballistic missile fire. This is the attack that the Israeli army warned about. We spoke with officials before we started this live report, and they said they actually had to cut short a statement by Israel's top spokesman because they got some information that this attack was about to be underway. These sirens that you hear off in the distance, again, are used to warn the population to get into shelters. And we're just going to wait and see what information we can gather about this. And we have a statement right now, Sandra, from the IDF, and I'm just going to read it to you in real time. A short while ago, sirens sounded in several areas across Israel following the identification of missiles from Iran toward the state of Israel. The public is asked to follow the instructions of the Home Front Command. At this time, the Israeli Air Force is operating to intercept and strike where necessary to eliminate the threat. It's essential to continue following the instructions of the Home Front Command. And so, again, the Israelis are operating in real time, not only to strike the missile launching positions inside of Iran, but also to shoot down any of that fire. And they will use the defense systems on the ground, but also fighter jets, if there are any sort of drones that are flying toward Israel to try to distract the air defense systems. But it gives you a sense. Okay, and I'm going to have my cameraman go back to the skyline here, and you're going to see more interceptor rounds coming off over Tel Aviv. The Iranians are targeting major population centers in Israel, again, in response to the operation overnight that took out a number of IRGC officials. And we can see flashes in the skies over Tel Aviv. Just pull out of this shot here a little bit, Yaniv, and I'm just going to talk to my cameraman while we're talking here. So there are some interceptors. Okay, there are interceptors coming in off the sea, and you're going to see some in the distant skyline. There's a missile, and it is headed down. So some of this I can already see, John and Sandra, is not being intercepted. We just saw one of the missiles. Okay, and there's an interception right over Tel Aviv. Pull out here, Yaniv, and you're going to see the trail. Just listen here. Okay, this is some short-range systems. Stay here, Yaniv. Pull out a little bit. Okay, there's just a massive amount of fire coming to Tel Aviv right now. Yaniv, get ready to pull it off the sticks. Get off the sticks. All right, let's go. Time to go. Okay. Guys, come on, everyone move. Everyone move now. Stay with us, stay with us. Pick up the gear, let's go.
All right, so there you can see, I mean, this has happened again. We've seen this before, but this is a barrage of missiles, the likes of which we maybe did not see the last time. And the other unknown, Sandra, is as Iron Dome and David Sling and the Arrow system and the Terminal High Altitude Air Defense systems are all going off at the same time, it seems here. The last time this happened, there was a coordinated defense between Israel, the United States, and other countries, including Jordan, to intercept these with aircraft as well. Trey, I mean, it's unbelievable to see what we're seeing going on in the skies above Tel Aviv right now.
Yeah, John, Sandra, you saw those live images. Israel is under a massive ballistic missile barrage. I have reported here for nearly 7 years and never seen such an attack against an Israeli city. The amount of air defense that you saw going off there it's unprecedented. It appears that they are targeting some of the centrally located positions in Tel Aviv. Remember, Israel's Ministry of Defense, the Kiryat, their version of the Pentagon, is located just a couple miles from here. The fact that they had to start using those short-range missile defense systems indicates that this is a direct attack on Israel's second largest city. We don't know what's happening in other areas, and we have to wait and gather more information to get a full understanding of what was targeted. But from what we could see and what you saw in those live images, massive explosions rocking the skyline. You could hear the explosions, flashes of light in Tel Aviv. That's when we made the decision to get a little bit more cover because this is an unprecedented moment for Israel. Again, the Iranians right now are responding to the ongoing waves of strikes that are taking place, targeting not only their nuclear facilities, but also top IRGC officials, including the leader of the IRGC, Hussein Salami. And we can expect more Israeli strikes in response to this. Just given how intense the fire, almost certainly American defense systems were involved in this. We do not know if anything has been hit, but in the distance, we could see some of those ballistic missiles slipping past air defense and slamming into the ground. It's unclear at this point what they were able to hit.
So, Trey, Per a military official directly to Fox News, just want to reiterate to our audience, dozens of Iranian ballistic missiles are en route to Israel. The people of Israel have been instructed to remain in bomb shelters until further notice. Based on the activity we just saw there, Trey, one might think there's more coming.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a country that is prepared for the possibility of days of missile attacks coming from the Iranian regime. Even last night, when Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netenyahu spoke, he talked about the fact that Israelis would have to stay in shelters much longer than they had to during previous rounds. And I just want to check my phone here as we're talking. As you noted, dozens of Iranian ballistic missiles being fired and reports of an impact in Tel Aviv. Again, people are in shelters, but these shelters, known as mamads here, that are attached to apartments and houses, are meant for, they're meant for rockets coming from places like the Gaza Strip. And guys, come back. Okay, stay with us, guys. There's an impact site very close to here. Just stay with us. Talk to me, John. Sandra, I'm with you.
Yep, we're here.
Yeah, so we can see that some smoke is rising from an area of downtown Tel Aviv, as we saw a missile impact there. We don't know if it was a missile that came in unintercepted or if it was the remnants of a missile that was intercepted that landed. But you can see a lot of smoke there, Trey, rising in downtown Tel Aviv.
Yeah, and guys, I want to caution here. We don't know at this point what was hit, and we can't even confirm this impact. There are initial reports of an impact, but the air defense systems that we're also working from that very area in the heart of Israel's second largest city. And so we often see smoke like that following the air defense systems being active. We simply don't know what was hit and what part of the city it was hit, and we'll continue to gather that information. But as we talk here, and I'm going to just look at my phone for a moment because I'm seeing if any of our military sources have texted me about what's happening.
Hey,
but
Trey,
as we move forward,
Trey,
the Israelis are preparing.
If I could just jump in here for a second, Trey. As you were moving inside with your crew, we did see an impact and an explosion in that area where the smoke is rising from now with a remote camera. So it does look like there was some sort of missile impact.
Yeah, and look, this area of Tel Aviv is very densely populated, right next to a main highway that moves along. I'm being very careful. We're getting some information in, but I just can't confirm it in real time, and so I'm being very careful with what I tell you, given how sensitive this is. What I can say, just according to the couple text messages I just read from Israeli security sources, this is a very significant attack, and emergency crews are responding, ensuring that no one was injured and checking different areas of Tel Aviv. I do want to just review what we saw when we started this hit out on this balcony, John and Sandra. We saw Israel's missile defense systems active from all directions, and the fact that these close-range systems in Tel Aviv were active so close to where we were, intercepting missiles just over this city, it's an indication, once again, that Israel has the capability to shoot down some of this incoming fire, but not all of it. And that is part of the concern as this story develops and as the Israelis continue to strike Iran. They can hit many of these launching positions, but the Iranians have thousands of ballistic missiles that they could use against Israel. And as we heard in that statement that we got from an Iranian official coming from Iran's supreme leader, they are preparing for war with Israel. And Israeli officials are not yet calling it a war, but what we are looking at is days of conflict ahead. The city is very quiet right now because people are still in bomb shelters. This is a country that has experienced these types of missile attacks before. And when we look back to the October 2024 missile attack that was conducted by the Iranians, there were around 300 ballistic missiles that were fired at this country. And initially, some of the officials that we talked to, and it's why I'm being very careful with what I'm saying here, they told us that many of them were intercepted. It was very successful. But the reality was videos started to come out showing that Israeli bases took significant damage because these missiles are traveling so fast and there's only a limited amount of air defense capability on the ground here. And remember, that was a missile attack that was in response to the killing of the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, and Hamas leadership, including Ismail Haniyeh, in the Iranian capital of Tehran. What we saw overnight, it's hard to even put into words how much more significant it is. What we're looking at right now is the big conflict that everyone discussed for decades, a possibility between Israel and Iran. Overnight, the Israelis took out the entirety of Iran's IRGC Air Force leadership. Again, as we can report from sources that we've talked to in the Israeli security establishment, that was a surprise attack. They got these officials to a meeting point in Iran and kept them there before killing all of them. They killed the head of the IRGC. They killed Iran's top nuclear scientist. They have damaged both the Natanz facility and other enrichment facilities in Iran. They have targeted missile production sites. They have targeted launching positions. And the Israelis are continuing to strike Iran as we speak. And so it places what is happening right now in such a larger frame. The one thing that we should note here, and this is very important when we look at the context of the current ballistic missile attack that just took place against Israel and the ongoing conflict between officials here that are now conducting an ongoing operation against Iran and the Iranians, is that Iran no longer has the strength of its proxies, like Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. Now, the Houthis have still been able to maintain a ballistic missile capability. Earlier today, they fired a ballistic missile at Israel, and it actually landed outside the West Bank city of Hebron. But they are able to fire in very small moments. They're not able to launch large barrages. Hezbollah was long considered the biggest threat to Israel in a possible conflict with Iran. But as we know, the Israelis methodically took out the leadership of Hezbollah, from Hassan Nasrallah to members of the Radwan forces. We were with Israeli forces on the ground in southern Lebanon as they cleared out the villages and the rocket launching positions along the border. And they've gone off after the precision missile components and sites in Lebanon, in the capital of Beirut. And so Israel's main focus right now is defending not about attacks from places like Gaza or Lebanon or Yemen, but directly from Iranian territory. And we know that they have the ability to strike major population centers. We're getting in some new information now from the top spokesman for the medics in Tel Aviv. And they say that following the recent red alert sirens, no calls have been received for emergency dispatch at this time. Wow. So it's an indication that despite the fact we saw some of those missiles landing inside Israel and those interceptions overhead that certainly create significant shrapnel that rains down on the population below, at this point, initial reports indicate there are no injuries. Again, this is very preliminary information. And as we talk here again, I'm just checking through the different sources that we're getting information from. And I again, just want to be very careful about what I report live here, because we're getting a lot of different information and we need to confirm it in real time. John,
well,
Sandra?
that certainly would be extraordinary, Trey, if you don't have any injuries. We saw at least 3 impacts. Looks like a couple were from damaged missiles that had been intercepted, and then one seemed to come in full force, and the smoke hanging over Tel Aviv. But if indeed this is the beginning of war between Israel and Iran, it would seem to me that it's going to look very different depending on which country you're in. Iran has no other capability, it would seem, other than to throw these ballistic missiles into Israel. Meantime, Israel is capable of widely penetrating Iran's airspace, launching pinprick attacks to take out its infrastructure. And so Iran's got to be worried that while it may be able to lob missiles at Israel and get the odd impact, as we saw here tonight, Israel can hit where it wants, when it wants, and who it wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the other part of all of this, and I think it's something we have to talk about, it's the American forces and the bases and embassies across the region. And we saw earlier in the week a decision that was made by the Americans to partially evacuate the U.S. embassy in Baghdad. All non-essential personnel told to leave. Other embassies and U.S. missions in places like Bahrain and Kuwait, there was a voluntary evacuation order for the family members of embassy staff and military forces in these areas. The concern is that not only will Iran try to target Israeli population centers like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, but that the Iranians will try to target U.S. bases and U.S. forces in the Middle East. And I think back to January of 2020, I was in Baghdad, Iraq, reporting following the drone strike that was ordered by President Trump to kill top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. And at the time, the Iranians responded with 13 ballistic missiles, and they soared through the skies of Iraq and targeted Western Iraq at a base called Ain al-Assad. There is concern that something like this could happen in the hours and days ahead as the Iranians respond to the Israeli strikes.
All right, Trey,
John,
we're going to let you catch your breath, check in on your sources. We'll check back in with you shortly.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it.